I'm Katie Newman. I grew up in Citrus Heights, California. It's a suburb of Sacramento. I grew up in a pretty religious home. I was about 10 years old here. This was in 5th grade at Holy Family. This is where I went to school, same place we went to church. This is my class picture. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that perm. That was definitely an interesting hair choice. This was actually, thinking back on this, a really difficult time in my life. It was right around this time that my brother's friend would come to stay the night, and this would happen frequently, that he would come into my room and would molest me while I was sleeping. I'd wake up to him being in there, just completely paralyzed with fear, not feeling like I could do anything about it. At the same time, had some really confusing feelings, being a young adolescent. There was a part of me who liked it. I felt desired, and I was really confused by those feelings, and it resulted in just a lot of sexual brokenness and patterns in my life. And dealt with promiscuity as a teenager and young adult, and actually remember a time when I was about 17, was hanging out with a couple guys, and they had actually forced me to drink way more than I wanted to. Actually forcibly made me drink until I blacked out, and I woke up the next day just surrounded and in my own vomit, no clothes on, and to the realization that they had actually raped me. And just kind of led into some toxic friendships and relationships, and including alcohol and drug abuse. Started with weed and moved on to getting involved with methamphetamines. And did a pretty good job of kind of hiding this double life that I had, and until I was 19 and realized that my period was late. And just found myself sitting in my bathroom with a pregnancy test. Just initially just feeling completely numb, staring at it, not knowing what to feel, and then just being overwhelmed with all these emotions and fear, being gripped by fear, just afraid of being exposed. I didn't even know who the father was. I was afraid of my family knowing the kind of people that I was hanging out with, and really the kind of person I had become. And I was faced with this decision. I was raised knowing that abortion was wrong, and wanting my baby, but feeling like I couldn't keep it. I think I need to take a break for a second. And told the guy who I thought was probably the father, and he wanted me to get an abortion. And so at that point, I just didn't feel like I had a choice, and I made the appointment. The likely dad, he took me to the clinic, and he dropped me off. And I can still remember what the lobby looks like. I can still remember how the chairs were arranged. Still remember everything about that place. I remember sitting down with the lady who I guess was supposed to counsel me before the abortion, and asking her questions that she couldn't answer. Asking her, is this gonna hurt the baby? And I just remember her being very evasive and telling me that I would need to talk to a doctor about that, and not really providing me with any counsel at all. And then before our time was up and before I went on to get ready for the procedure, she gave me a piece of paper and a pen, and I had to write down in my own handwriting. I don't even remember exactly what it said. It was something to the effect of that I was the one who was choosing the abortion. But I just remember writing that statement out. I can still see it clearly in my mind and thinking, I'm doing this. This is me who made this choice. And it's something that I've come back to many, many times in my life and thought about. I remember getting called back and being on the table and then putting an IV in my arm, and the anesthesiologist, I can still remember what it felt like for them to put the anesthesia in my IV, and I remember laying there and feeling it move up my arm and up to my neck, and just feeling this immense regret, and then blanking out. The next thing I remember, I woke up in this room, laying down on a bed. It was a dark recovery room, I guess, and there were other women. There were women on each side of me, and I remember them telling me that mine was a success. And I left the clinic, and the guy who I thought was the dad picked me up, met me in the waiting room, and his attitude towards me had completely changed. He wouldn't help me carry my things. He took me and he dropped me off at my apartment, and I never heard from him or saw him again. And there was a part of me that was hurt by that. And there was also a part of me that was so grateful that I never had to face him again. And then it was about 2 weeks later, I was sitting on the couch with my roommate. There was this pro-life commercial that came on, and I remember it well. It was the sound of a baby's heartbeat, and it showed a heartbeat on like a heart monitor screen. And you would hear that for, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 seconds, and then it would say every abortion stops a beating heart. And I couldn't stuff my feelings anymore. The wound was just torn wide open, and I was so sad because my baby was gone. And at the same time, I didn't feel like I had the right to grieve because it was my fault And I just started to tailspin from there. I became very depressed. I sunk deeper into my drug addiction. Was moving from place to place. Eventually that turned into couch to couch, until I really found myself in this place where I was so low. I had been up for days with a friend. We were high on meth, got so paranoid. Actually ended up calling the cops on ourselves, and they showed up and questioned us and ended up taking us back to her house. And we had gone inside, and my friend had gone to bed, and I was staying on her couch, and I really don't know how to explain it, but I just had this encounter with God, and I immediately became sober. Immediately realized and recognized where I had found myself and where I was at and what was happening, and just felt completely surrounded by God's love and His grace, and literally felt like He had just picked me up and sat me on His lap and embraced me, and I just began to repent and cried. It felt like all night, and my life began to change. And I mean, things weren't perfect after that, because, you know, even after I really came to know God and understand who He was, I still didn't really deal with the things of my past. Still dealt with the shame and the rejection of my past, and allowed it to do damage in my life over the years. And it wasn't until I reached the age of 41 when I really recommitted my life to God, and kind of almost encountered Him again, and felt Him telling me it's time to come home and deal with these things, and just really felt like He wanted to heal me. And finally came to a place where I accepted God's forgiveness, and I forgave myself. I asked God to show me who my child was, and to give me a name, and He gave me the name Isaac. And so I'm sharing this story for Isaac because he was created for a purpose, and I believe that his purpose was to give life to others. And so I do this to honor him. And I'm sharing my story for those women who've been through what I've been through, the women who've also chosen to have an abortion and who are still dealing with the pain of that. I know your pain. God knows your pain. And I'm here to tell you that He wants to heal you. I still deal with the grief of having an abortion and the reality of losing my child. But I'm not gripped by it anymore, controlled by it anymore. I've laid it at God's feet, and He's healed me, and He's made me whole. You know, God's love is pretty amazing, and you don't really know until you have the opportunity to see just what He can pull you out of and what He can love you through. There's absolutely nothing He can't forgive and doesn't want to forgive. There's nothing that He can't heal me from. God forgave me of so much. and He made me new. And God gave me the name Catherine. And Catherine means pure. And because of God and His transformational and overwhelming love, that's exactly what I am.